In 1930, while America was plunging into financial ruin, a car manufacturer unveiled an engine so massive it could power a locomotive. At nearly 13 liters, this mechanical monster produced 300 horsepower when most family cars struggled to make 50. The price? Equivalent to a mansion. From engines that breathed through sleeves instead of valves to motors that spun their entire cylinder block, the 12 strangest engines of the 1930s show what happens when genius meets desperation. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now back to the video. Willys Knight Sleeve Valve Engine. When the Great Depression hit, most car companies retreated to safe, proven designs. Not Willys Knight. They went the opposite direction with their sleeve valve engine, a radical system where metal sleeves slid between the piston and cylinder wall. Industry experts laughed at the concept, claiming the sleeves would leak, seize, or wear out within months. But these critics missed something important. The sleeve valve design eliminated the harsh clatter of conventional engines with their noisy valves and springs. Willys Knight engines ran with an eerie silence that earned them the nickname whisper power among wealthy owners. These engines proved remarkably durable too. While normal engines needed valve adjustments every 20,000 miles, Willys Knight engines often ran 100,000 miles without major service. This reliability, combined with their signature quietness, turned them into status symbols during the Depression. Argyle Bert McCullum single sleeve valve engine. While Willys Knight used 2 sliding sleeves in their engines, a small Scottish company called Argyle took sleeve valve technology in a dramatically different direction. They built engines with just a single sleeve per cylinder, a design that most engineers considered impossible to execute properly. What made the Argyle design remarkable was its performance. Despite seeming counterintuitive, these single-sleeve engines delivered better fuel efficiency and more power than conventional designs of similar size. The real legacy of the Argyle engine emerged years later when Bristol adapted the single-sleeve concept for aircraft engines. These power plants eventually drove RAF fighters during World War II, proving that Depression-era innovation could literally help win a war. Adams Farwell Rotary Engine. If you saw an Adams Farwell engine running for the first time in the 1930s, you might think someone had built the engine backward. Unlike normal engines where pistons move and the block stays still, this radical design spun the entire cylinder block around a stationary crankshaft. Engineers developed an ingenious system of ports and valves that timed the intake and exhaust through the stationary crankshaft itself. The spinning design produced incredibly smooth power without needing a flywheel, but created a major problem: gyroscopic forces that made steering unpredictable, especially at higher speeds. The car would resist changing direction. While more successful in early aircraft, these strange engines continued in limited automotive use through the 1930s for buyers seeking mechanical distinction. Franklin Aircooled Inline 6. In the 1930s, America, Franklin Motors stood out by doing something car experts said would never work. They built luxury cars without radiators, while other manufacturers insisted water cooling was essential for premium vehicles. Franklin championed air-cooled engines normally reserved for motorcycles and cheap cars. This radical design eliminated over 150 pounds of radiator weight in plumbing, while solving a major Depression-era problem: expensive antifreeze. Franklin owners never worried about frozen radiators during harsh winters. Another manufacturer would take air cooling even further with a completely different cylinder arrangement: Tatra V8 air-cooled rear engines. While Americans explored air cooling with inline engines, Czechoslovakian company Tatra took a much bolder approach. They placed massive air-cooled V8 engines behind the rear axle, a configuration most automotive experts declared was fundamentally unstable and dangerous. Tatra engineers faced an incredible challenge: putting a heavy V8 at the extreme rear required completely rethinking weight distribution, suspension, and cooling. They developed a revolutionary backbone chassis, a central beam running the length of the car, and independent suspension decades before competitors adopted these technologies. This unusual engine placement created surprising benefits. The streamlined front end reduced drag by nearly 30% compared to conventional designs, allowing Tatra cars to achieve higher speeds with less power. Dyson rotary valve engine. When conventional engines topped out at high RPM, their valves would float, failing to close properly as springs couldn't keep up. The Dyson rotary valve engine solved this by removing traditional valves entirely, replacing them with spinning circular valves that rotated continuously. This design eliminated 40% of moving parts compared to overhead valve engines, promising better reliability when maintenance could break a family's budget during the Depression. Despite brilliant engineering, the Dyson engine ultimately failed commercially. The materials of the 1930s simply couldn't handle the extreme conditions. The concept was sound, but the technology wasn't ready, a case where engineering vision exceeded what manufacturing could deliver. Stroberg Carbureted, Supercharged V8. While most Americans struggled to afford basic transportation in the 1930s, a few manufacturers were building cars with technology that seemed almost magical. Supercharged engines. The Stroberg Carbureted Supercharged V8 represented engineering excess during economic scarcity. Engineers faced a serious problem. Carburetors designed for normal atmospheric pressure failed under boost. The Stroberg system solved this with specialized pressure balance float chambers that maintained consistent fuel levels regardless of boost pressure. These carburetors included enrichment circuits that delivered extra fuel when the supercharger was pushing hard, preventing the engine-destroying lean conditions that plagued earlier designs. The performance was astonishing. Supercharged V8s produced up to 50% more power than naturally aspirated engines, delivering acceleration that seemed impossible to Depression-era drivers. Cadillac V16 Engine, 1930. In January 1930, as America fell deeper into economic disaster, Cadillac revealed something that seemed almost ridiculous: a car with 16 cylinders. This 452 cubic inch V16 engine appeared when most families struggled to afford cars with 4 or 6 cylinders. Cadillac engineers developed a unique 45-degree cylinder bank angle with a special firing order that delivered power so smoothly that drivers couldn't feel the engine running. The narrow power band needed dual carburetors and intake manifolds perfectly synchronized to prevent surging. Despite selling fewer than 4,000 units, the V16 established Cadillac as America's premier luxury brand for decades. At just 4 miles per gallon, it wasn't practical, but it proved engineering excellence could thrive even during the worst economic times. Bugatti Type 41, Royale Straight 8. If the Cadillac V16 was excessive, the Bugatti Type 41 Royale engine was absolutely outrageous. This 12.7-liter straight 8 engine was so massive you could fit an entire Ford Model A engine bay inside it. The physical size wasn't just for show. What made this engine truly strange was its valve system. A single overhead camshaft operated 3 valves per cylinder through an intricate arrangement of rocker arms that demanded constant adjustment. Despite the engineering brilliance, only 6 Royale engines ever made it into cars. The design later found success in an unexpected place, powering French rail cars with each car using 2 Royale engines. Hutmobile Inline 8. While luxury brands showcased engines with 12 or 16 cylinders, Hutmobile created something for the middle class, an inline 8 that brought refinement to regular Americans. These engines faced a serious engineering problem: how to run smoothly without expensive counterweighted crankshafts. Hutmobile solved this by pioneering rubber engine mounts that isolated vibration from the passenger compartment. They paired this with harmonic balancers that canceled out remaining vibrations, creating luxury-level smoothness. A unique heat riser system in the intake manifold that improved cold weather starts when competitors' cars sat useless in driveways. Hot exhaust gases warmed the incoming fuel mixture, ensuring proper vaporization even in freezing temperatures. This combination of innovations let Hutmobile offer 8-cylinder refinement at 6-cylinder prices, creating a distinct market position that helped them survive the Depression's worst years. Cordel L29 front-wheel drive, Lycoming straight 8. In 1929, as the stock market crashed, Cord revealed something revolutionary, the L29, America's first production car with front-wheel drive. This wasn't just a minor modification, but a complete reimagining of how cars worked. Engineers faced a massive challenge: how to route power from a longitudinally mounted Lycoming straight 8 to the front wheels. This required an intricate system of gears and universal joints that no American car had used before. The Lycoming engine needed significant modifications. Engineers lowered it in the chassis and repositioned accessories to maintain proper weight distribution with this unusual layout. This configuration eliminated the transmission tunnel that normally ran through the passenger compartment. The result? A completely flat floor in a car that sat noticeably lower than its competitors. Stout Scarab rear-mounted Ford V8. The Stout Scarab might be the strangest vehicle from the 1930s, looking more like something from a science fiction movie than a Depression-era car. Its creator, William Stout, came from the aviation industry and brought that thinking to automobiles. The most revolutionary aspect? Stout took a standard Ford V8 engine and mounted it at the extreme rear, something Ford engineers never intended. This created massive challenges with cooling and exhaust routing. The entire drivetrain had to be redesigned to essentially work in reverse from conventional cars. These 12 engines show us something remarkable. When times get tough, engineers get creative. During America's worst economic crisis, automotive designers created some of the strangest, most innovative engines ever built. They weren't just solving problems. They were reimagining what cars could be. The lesson? Innovation thrives under constraint. These Depression-era engineers proved that limited resources can spark unlimited creativity. Their ingenuity didn't just survive an economic disaster. It transformed how we think about transportation forever.